Did you know that a conspiracy has been taking place across Azeroth? One that almost nobody knows about. That's one thing. Another thing, we have just learnt what's really out there in the cosmos. And we've also learnt that our next expansion is going to be back home on Azeroth. Ian says they've heard you, and they'll do a more traditional expansion next time. It's very much what it seems like. So with all of this, it's time to ask, what is still out there to be covered? Now, Titans and Naru and demons, those are in space, but they are in the very DNA, the root of the Warcraft setting, and they were never the problem. They are classic Warcraft. So between them and the sorts of things going on, I've got to say, there is a lot out there that is classic Warcraft. So today, let's find out what there is to discover. Of course, including Boxu, the place where you can get a slice of Japan each month and 10% off up to $47 with my link down below. They give you a real fun journey through Japanese snacking and the good stuff, and like these literally ship from Japan, and even partner with local snack makers to make cool, unique things like the crazy chocolate strawberries that we had a while back. Boxu is a perfect gift, and you might even win tickets to Japan this time around because Boxu are giving away a set of tickets to anyone who is subscribed before the end of December. Now this time round, this is the 12 Prefectures box, and we really enjoyed this one. Okay, so there's gummies. These gummies are so tasty. There's also a yuzu souffle, and while we're on that, yuzu's awesome. There's yuzu pepper popcorn. I could not believe this stuff, that this yuzu popcorn is not everywhere across the world because it's just delicious. There's also some delicious tea, yam pies, pastries, and there's also these really cool crunchy caramelized apple treats as well. We absolutely loved our box, and to get yours and 10% off, and maybe even a set of tickets to Japan, hit up our link down below. They're a bunch of fun. Me and Matt really enjoy them together. And yeah, thanks Boxu, check them out, and let's go. We met the Titans, and obviously that left way more questions than it gave answers. There's so much to consider that Titan lore is perhaps the broadest tent of stories that we've got thus far. The thing I think about is, alright, we know all this stuff about the Titans now, so let's go back and revisit bits that used to be super mysterious in a new light. With all that we now know about them, what does that mean about what we find just lying around in Azeroth? What crazy weapons and treasures are there yet to find? The bones of the story are already there. I mean, in Uldum in patch 8.3, we saw the Waste Wanderers join up with the Tol'vir and permanently settle themselves around Titan complexes. I mean, this would be an excellent opportunity to get some, well, good old-fashioned tomb raiding content into the game. Hey, think about an archaeology revamp. But seriously, the Explorers League. Wouldn't it be amazing to see Bran Bronzebeard back in the story again? But with the benefit of all of the insane knowledge that we have gained about the Titans? But of course, that's far from all. There are more Titan facilities yet to find. Uldoris and Uldaz, with 4 other ones speculated to be out there. We know they start with Uld, but we don't know what the rest of their names are. This literally came from a readout from Mother. A Titan being, right? No matter where Blizzard takes us next, if it's on Azeroth, I'd put good money on one of those Titan facilities turning up again. And speaking of which, here is my top pick for the location of a hidden Titan facility. The other side of Azeroth. Yes, it is out there, and mariners unfortunate enough to have ever tried to get out there, well, they have never returned. And that means you've got to wonder, what the hell stopped them? Was it storms? Was it a magical barrier? Is the place infested? Maybe demons? Maybe old gods? Maybe something else entirely? Suffice to say, this has been a dangling prospect for a very, very, very long time. The lore is immediately sensible. I mean, from very early days, we have known that ships that have went in those directions have never returned. That definitely begs the question of what is lying out there. And this would be an incredible opportunity for Blizzard to flex, to not just give us a quick little selection of bits, but maybe a whole new continent, maybe a third major continent. It could be tricky with the lore, but they could give us some new stuff, a new cast of characters, races, and stories that are all grounded in something that is new, but absolutely feels like what we love of Azeroth. It wouldn't have to be entirely alien either, because canonically both Night Elves and humans have tried to cross those seas at various times, so we could actually see a few familiar colonies. Now, I want you to think about what would happen when those cultures get out there, get stranded, and progress in isolation. What would Night Elves look like after 10,000 years on the other side of the planet? Look what happened to Blood Elves. Look what happened to the Nightborn. Elves can change, so there's big potential there. Blizzard wants to get people excited about a new allied race. Perhaps human states that have risen in the past few decades. Maybe a lost tribe of trolls. There would be recognizable bad guys as well. And then, what happens if people don't return, but they do get there and something blocks them from leaving? Fertile ground for lore exploration. Even for another example, after the Second War, the ogres built massive fleets to escape the Eastern Kingdoms. Some of them ended up in Kalimdor, some of them ended up on Exile's Reach. What if others got thrown off track and ended up at the other side of the planet? There really isn't much else to say in this one, because really, this would just be a chance to create something entirely new, but distinctly Azeroth. And I think that if Blizzard put a lot of work and passion into a project like this, it could turn out really good. So, did you get hooked by that conspiracy I mentioned? If you did, well, listen up. Before the Shadowlands, there was much ethereal lore percolating in the background. It began with Illyria and a mysterious void ethereal named Locust Walker. They thwarted a plan by the Shadow Guard Ethereals, controlled by the Void, to turn Argus into a shadow planet. Now, this is not the conspiracy. This is the thing we all saw in the A-plot of that expansion. Of course, this Shadow Guard was actually led by a Viceroy. And we bring that up because who is he the Viceroy for? It means he was clearly put in charge of that expedition by someone else. So, his boss, a big void personality, is out there. As is, by the way, Sinestra, aka Syntharia, the prime consort of Deathwing. So, there's that. And there's a lot of dots that we have to connect here. You see, when the Void Elves cleared out their rift, they defeated Prince Durzan, who claims that his master has vast but not infinite patience. Then, a new Void Ethereal named Shadreen showed up to observe those Void Elves from a distance. She then turned up again at the Trial of Style, learning the costumes and the dress codes of Azeroth's natives. She mentions all this information is for some mysterious master. We actually got a hint of Shadreen's plan in the Brawlers Guild, where her agent, Zan Salish, took the appearance of a Brawl staff member, of Bismo himself. He then studied our fighting style for that same mysterious master. So they're all here, working for a master that we have yet to meet. They can take our appearance, and they have learnt our fighting styles. This is some invasion of the body Snatchers shit. So what is next? Is this a slow, insidious invasion, where we can't trust who is a void ethereal in disguise or not? Are there Cylons in our midst? They may already be among us, and hopefully this time round, they actually have a plan. All this talk of ethereals brings us to the Void itself. Dementius! He destroyed the ethereals' homeworld and was described as a sort of Void Lord, maybe one of the most terrifying things you could imagine in this setting. and then we quickly killed him in a Burning Crusade dungeon. A pretty damn minor fight that in no way reflected the power that he seemed to have in the lore. So maybe we can just chalk that up to, it's the Burning Crusade, they were a bit slapdash. Maybe we can say that Dimensius was just a fragment of the true horror that's actually lurking outside the cosmos. Maybe it was just a little tear of reality that let him in a tiny capacity, and that's what destroyed the ethereal homeworld of Koresh. Well, with the old gods apparently, a bit dead right now, does that mean that it's time for a full Void invasion? Because we have these Void ethereals, right? We've recently had evidence of Void incursions into the Shadowlands. We've recently dealt with a Void infection in the Emerald Nightmare. And, I mean, hey, it could be that Shadreen and co. are working for some crazy Void Master. So, what's next for Void? Is all of this Void ethereal stuff actually foregrounding some sort of actual invasion? Perhaps a whole true Old God Void-themed expansion? All I'll say is that my hope is they'll actually do justice to the long-established promise of Nyalotha. Give us the Black Empire that we deserve, please. The light is guaranteed to be a threat in the future, and of course we do have several videos considering how this might actually happen. There's the very, I think, obvious one of some form of light invasion being led by Yrel and the AU Light Mother Naru. Then, in our Turalian investigation, we of course asked just how screwed we are with Turalian on the throne of Stormwind, given a bunch of the whispers and hints that we have got from the game and from the books. But something we've not touched on is the connection between light and void. Think about it. We've got all of these void ethereals and the true void perhaps on the horizon, but look back on Legion and the lessons that Illyria had with Locust Walker. Neither force sees the whole destiny of the universe, each seeing the other as horrors. Right in the middle of that conflict are the couple of Illyria and Turalian, and their love for each other, and of course, their son. There's then, of course, Anduin's internal struggles, which are all light versus void. That's literally been shown in a book of him using void. The author was told to include that void in Anduin. We then have a whole cast of light characters like Kalia, who would very much be the crux of this conflict. So I'd expect to see the light pretty damn soon. One thing you can definitely say about Maldraxxus is it really did keep that heavy metal that's been in the Warcraft franchise front and center. And I think we'll need more of that with the Burning Legion out of the picture. They're a classic Warcraft villain, and with them defeated, where do we get that classic Warcraft from? Well, the thing is, even with the Legion gone, we could still have a demon problem, because we do not know the consequences of Sargeras' imprisonment. I mean, hey, remove the Lich King, what happens? Suddenly nobody's controlling the feral undead. Remove the being of order that has brought order to the forces of chaos, what the hell happens? Do they run rampant, or is it kind of like orcs without Sauron? They just, not really that powerful. They don't come together. Hard to say. But of course, with Sargeras in prison, Kil'jaeden and Archimonde almost certainly gone for good, the Legion is pretty much gone. Or perhaps it's sort of split up into some feudal system with all of the different pit lords sort of staking their claim. But of course, the Legion was only ever an organization, an unnatural order placed over disorder, and as such, there now is going to be a power vacuum on the plane of disorder. And everything that we've learned from Shadowlands, gives us a pretty good idea of what's probably going to step into its place. It seems like there are pantheons for the different forces. Every plane has a pantheon, from the Titans to the Eternals of the Shadowlands to whatever group Elune was originally from. Hell, maybe even the Void Lords. So, what does that mean for disorder? Did Sargeras imprison some demon patriarch on Mardoom? Or will natural disorder settle in the demons? It's quite hard to say, really, but from everything that we're seeing out of patch 9.2, we know that the Plane of Disorder has a Azeroth installation, so I mean, it's still primed to fold into this whole big First One's cosmic narrative that Blizzard are doing. All of this, I think, means that demons will need to completely reinvent themselves. They'll need to look and feel a little bit different from the Burning Legion, but I do think that while this won't happen quite soon, I think we will slowly start to see demons re-enter the story, albeit fulfilling a bit of a different part in that story. I sincerely hope Blizzard does something with this, even though it may not seem like the most obvious thing to do. Because have you ever wondered what all the big bad's henchmen got up to after their boss's defeat? I mean, we know there always needed to be a Lich King to keep the Scourge in check, but in Cataclysm, we actually saw some free Scourge warlords in the Plaguelands. Recently, then, Flynn and Shaw discovered some activity in Scholomance. So, are those warlords still about then? There is so much potential here following up on loose threads. With both the Scourge gone and the Old God seemingly gone, what would happen if we went back to Azul Narub? What's going on with the Spider Kingdom? Then, with the Shower gone out there somewhere and undoubtedly going to return at some point as a major herald for a new expansion, you've got to wonder what's going on with the Naga. I mean, Murlocs are on every coast because the Murlocs, that is, was actually the first stage in a Shower's campaign that culminated in Nyalotha. But what's up with those Murlocs now? What's actually going on? Basically, what I'm getting at here is that Blizzard have humongous opportunities for content in basically bringing the entirety of Azeroth up to date. Think about almost every regional problem that we've dealt with, especially in the older expansions. What's going on there now? What's up with the mean streets of Gadgetzan? What's going on in Booty Bay? Lordaeron? What's up with what's going on there? There is so much to cover here. And I think if we're thinking about what could happen next, I think we should seriously consider the endless plot threads that are just waiting there to be picked up. And I'll also say that after playing Final Fantasy XIV, they have done, quite a few instances, great jobs of just making a villain, carrying them through 1 or 2 or maybe 3 expansions, and that being a highly, highly successful thing. And in a way where those villains could be any character from any of these lingering plot threads. And when I think about Warcraft, honestly, these days, the characters that I enjoy the least are the big names that you know of, the marketing characters, the Jaina's, the Tyrondas, the Thralls. Do you know what the characters that I like are? Matthias Shaw, Flynn Fairwind, Tilia. These characters are actually made inside World of Warcraft, that we get to experience alongside our characters, the ones that aren't larger than life. And I think that, as Steve put it in the trailer, if we're closing the book in one chapter, perhaps the next chapter of Warcraft has got to open by actually having World of Warcraft's characters be World of Warcraft's characters. Maybe picking up some of these plot threads would be a really, really wise move for them to do. I mean, hey, there's so much more here. We could talk about Lordaeron for months probably, so I'm going to wrap us up today. That, in summary, is where I think we could be going. We sat down, we asked ourselves, World of Warcraft, what's next? And we think that thematically and subject matter-wise, a lot of this stuff is what's highly likely. So, we'll just have to wait to whatever BlizzCon or Blizz something happens to see which one it ends up being. Check back in. Alright, hope you had a great day, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.